Have you ever heard a story so chilling, so deeply rooted in ancient traditions, that it makes you question the very fabric of our reality? Today, we're not just telling a ghost story, we're delving into a true account. A cautionary tale that has been passed down through generations in a small, isolated village. A place where old ways die hard, and the spirit world is just a breath away. This is the story of the Chun family and the horrifying consequences they faced after breaking an oath that had been honored for centuries. Our story takes us to a remote village nestled deep in a valley, surrounded by mist-covered mountains and ancient, whispering forests. The villagers here live by a unique set of customs, one of which is particularly sacred: the annual river offering. This wasn't just a festival, it was a solemn pact made with the river spirit centuries ago. The legend says that a great flood once threatened to wipe out the village. The first elder made a promise to the river spirit. In exchange for sparing their homes, the villagers would offer a portion of their first harvest every year, and most importantly, never take anything from the river during the 10 days leading up to the ceremony. This oath was the village's lifeline, a promise of peace and prosperity for generations. No one dared to break this rule. The river, usually a source of life, was treated with fearful respect during this sacred period. Children were told stories of those who had defied the spirit in the distant past, stories of sudden illnesses, lost livestock, and shadows that lingered where they shouldn't. The river was believed to be watching, listening, and waiting. The Chun family had lived in the village for as long as anyone could remember. Mr. Chun was a practical man, a bit of a skeptic who often scoffed at what he called old superstitions. His wife was more traditional, always reminding him to respect the ways of their ancestors. Their son, Wei, was a curious and bright young boy. One year, a severe drought hit the region. The harvest was meager, and families were struggling. Mr. Chun watched his own crops wither, and the seed of desperation began to grow in his heart. The river offering was just a week away, and the rule of not taking from the river was in full effect. One evening, as the sun bled into the mountains, Mr. Chun looked toward the river. Despite the drought, its waters still flowed, and he knew it was teeming with fish. He thought about his hungry family, about the failed harvest, and his skepticism got the better of him. "It's just a story," he muttered to himself. "The river is just a river. The spirits won't mind if I take just a few fish to feed my family." Under the cloak of twilight, he grabbed his fishing net and headed to the riverbank, ignoring the worried pleas of his wife. The air was unnaturally still, the usual chorus of insects silent. He cast his net, and to his surprise, he came back heavy with writhing, silver fish. He felt a brief sense of triumph, a justification for his defiance. He had provided for his family. What harm could there be? He hurried home, cooked the fish, and the family ate their first full meal in days. That night, a strange, cold wind swept through the village, rattling the windows of the Chun household. The very next day, the strangeness began. It started subtly. Wei, their son, woke up with a high fever. The village doctor couldn't explain it. He had no other symptoms, just a burning heat that no medicine could quell. At night, Wei would talk in his sleep, his voice a strange, gurgling whisper, like the sound of water rushing over stones. He spoke of a woman in the water who was cold and angry. The parents dismissed it as fever-induced delirium. Then, things escalated. Objects in their house would move on their own. A cup would slide off a table. A door would slam shut in a draft-free room. The fish they had left over from that night rotted in a single day, filling the house with a putrid, swampy smell that clung to everything. Mrs. Chun grew more and more terrified. She knew, deep in her bones, that they had invited something into their home. She pleaded with her husband to confess to the village elder, but his pride and fear kept him silent. One night, the family was jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream from Wei's room. They rushed in to find him standing on his bed, pointing at the corner of the room, his eyes wide with terror. "She's here," he shrieked. "The lady from the river? Her hair is like seaweed, and her eyes are empty." Mr. and Mrs. Chun saw nothing but shadows, but the air in the room was icy cold, and the distinct, damp smell of river mud filled their nostrils. From that night on, no one in the family could sleep. They would hear the sound of dripping water inside the walls, even though no pipes were leaking. They would see fleeting, wet footprints appear on the dry floorboards, only to evaporate moments later. The spirit wasn't just haunting them, it was tormenting them, a slow, creeping punishment for a broken promise. The breaking point came a few nights later. Mrs. Chun was woken by a chilling sound, a soft, melodic humming of a woman. She followed the sound to the kitchen. In the pale moonlight filtering through the window, she saw a figure standing by their water basin. It was a woman, drenched from head to toe, her long, dark hair plastered to her translucent skin. As the figure turned, Mrs. Chun saw that it had no face, just a smooth swirling surface like murky water. She let out a scream that echoed through the silent village. The figure dissolved, leaving behind a puddle of dark, brackish water on the floor. Finally broken, Mr. Chun, with his weeping wife and feverish son, went to the village elder at dawn. With his head hung in shame, he confessed everything. The elder's face, usually kind, grew stern and grim. He had heard the stories from his grandfather, and his grandfather from his... He knew what had been unleashed. "You have not just stolen fish," the elder said, his voice trembling slightly. "You have broken a sacred pact. You have angered the guardian of the river, and now she seeks a toll." There was only one way to appease the spirit. A ritual of apology, far more elaborate and humbling than the usual offering, had to be performed immediately. The entire village was gathered. Mr. Chun had to kneel at the riverbank from sunrise to sunset, without food or water, publicly begging for forgiveness. The family had to return 3 times the value of the fish they took, not with more fish, but with their most prized possessions, casting them into the current. As Mr. Chun knelt by the water, the sky, which had been clear, grew dark and overcast. A cold wind whipped the surface of the river into a frenzy. As he offered his apology, his voice raw with desperation and regret, villagers reported seeing a shadowy form swirl in the depths. As the sun began to set, he placed their offerings, a hand-carved chest from his wife's dowry, his own father's silver watch into the water. For a moment, the items floated. Then they were pulled under with a sudden, violent tug. As the last item vanished, the wind died down, and a single ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the spot where the offerings had disappeared. When Mr. Chun returned home, exhausted and humbled, he found his son, Wei, sitting up in bed. His fever was gone. The first thing Wei said was, "The woman in the water smiled. She's not angry anymore." From that day on, the paranormal activity in their home ceased. The unexplained noises, the cold spots, the smell of the river, it all vanished as quickly as it had begun. The Chun family, and indeed the entire village, had been given a terrifying, first-hand lesson in the importance of respecting the old ways. This story isn't just a spooky tale to tell around a campfire. It's a powerful reminder that some traditions, some beliefs, are born from experiences we may not understand. They are the boundaries set between our world and another, a world that demands respect. The Chun family learned the hard way that when you break an ancient oath, the consequences can be more real and more horrifying than you could ever imagine. What do you think? Are these just old superstitions, or are there unseen forces that govern our world? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the world of folklore and true ghost stories. If you found this tale as chilling as I did, please hit that like button. And you won't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next exploration into the unknown. Stay curious and stay safe.